All right, welcome in everyone to this deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at Think and Grow Rich
Oh, Think and Grow Rich.
by Napoleon Hill.
Classic.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
So for those who haven't read it, it's essentially Napoleon Hill interviewing over 500 millionaires,
hmm
trying to distill like the core principles of what made them tick.
exactly.
And so what we're going to try and do today is sort of extract
Yeah.
those core principles and see how they apply to us today.
I think this will be really good because there's so many different interpretations of this book floating around.
Oh, absolutely.
So to actually dive into the source material
Yeah.
and see what Hull was really trying to say,
Yes.
I think that's valuable.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun, too, because there's some like really interesting stories and anecdotes
Yeah.
in the book, you
Okay,
know?
dude.
Like we're going to be talking about gold mines.
Mhm.
We're going to be talking about turning like handicaps into assets.
Oh, yeah.
There's the personal cabinet of advisors he keeps from history.
That's a weird one.
Well, we'll get into that, yeah.
Okay,
It's going to be good stuff. So, without further ado, let's just jump right in.
let's do it.
So, the first big principle that Hill talks about is the power of burning desire.
Okay.
And, I mean, he's not kidding around. He says it's like the starting point
The basis
of all achievement.
Right. It has to be more than just kind of a, like, ooh, it'd be nice to have this kind of thing.
Right,
It has
yeah.
to be this all-consuming
Yeah, it's not just wanting something. It's like
Yeah.
a burning, like, it's almost an obsession.
an obsession. Like
Yeah.
you eat, sleep, and breathe it.
Totally. And he actually gives this really cool example in the book
Okay.
about a guy named Barnes
Oh,
who had this like burning desire to work with Thomas Edison.
not even for him, with him.
With him, yeah. And like he had no money, he had no connections,
Wow.
but he like showed up at Edison's lab and was just like basically refused to leave until he
yeah.
got a shot.
So it's not just the desire, it's also that taking action, the persistence.
Yeah, the desire fuels the action.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what like allowed him to eventually achieve his goal.
I like that. So I guess like a question for the listeners here is, what is your burning desire?
Ooh, that's a good one.
What is that thing that you want so bad that you're willing to put in the work, the effort, the time?
Totally. And like, I guess even beyond that, like, how do you cultivate
Yeah.
that burning desire? Because you
Yeah.
can't just snap your fingers and like suddenly have it.
No, I think it's a process. It's
Yeah.
figuring out what it is that truly like sets your soul on fire, right?
Yeah.
And then from there, it's taking like those little steps each day to
Right.
get closer to that.
Love it. So speaking of action,
Yeah.
the next principle we're going to be looking at is turning defeat into opportunity.
Ooh, I like this one.
So Hill believed that like every setback, no matter how big, has a hidden advantage.
That's a good way to look at it, right?
Right.
Because we all have those setbacks.
Yeah.
To see that there's something to be learned from that.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, like failure is only really failure when you don't learn anything from it.
Yes,
And
exactly.
you don't take something away.
It's all about reframing your perspective, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a stepping stone, not a roadblock.
It's part of the journey,
Exactly.
not the end of it.
Yes. And so he actually gives this great anecdote in the book about this guy named R.U. Darby, a gold prospect.
Gold prospector, right?
Yes. So he and his uncle, they were like convinced they hit it rich, right? They
Mm.
were digging,
They were sure.
but they like hit a rough patch and they gave up.
Right.
And they sold all their equipment for like peanuts
No.
to a junk man. And it turns out they stopped digging just 3 feet
Oh, my goodness.
from a massive gold vein.
Ugh, I hate stories like that.
Oh, it's so painful. But like the really interesting part of the story is that if they hadn't given up, they might have never learned about fault lines, which are these geological formations that can like shift ore veins.
Interesting.
And so later on, Darby actually used this knowledge
Oh, wow.
to become a very successful life insurance salesman
How does that work?
because he learned to never give up on a sale,
Ah, okay.
even after hearing no countless times.
Oh, that makes sense.
Perseverance. Yeah, that perseverance.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a really cool example of how a seemingly unrelated setback
Yes.
can teach you these like valuable lessons that can apply to other areas of your life.
I love that.
Yeah.
So think back to like a time where you had a setback in your own life.
Mm-hmm.
What did you learn from it? Did it lead you to something that
Yeah.
you wouldn't have expected?
Totally. I think that's such a powerful question because we've all had those moments, right?
Oh, yeah.
But like, how often do we stop and like really analyze what we can take away from this.
Exactly. It's about shifting your perspective, looking
Yeah.
for those opportunities, the lessons learned. And yeah,
All right, so principle number 3.
right.
This one is the importance of specialized knowledge.
Ooh, okay.
So Hill argues that, like, general knowledge is potential power,
Oh,
but it becomes real power when you apply it to a
right.
specific goal.
It's like having a library full of cookbooks, but never making anything.
Exactly.
You have to actually apply it.
It's like taking action.
Yeah.
And like he actually points out that a lot of successful individuals like Edison, like Ford, they actually had very little formal education,
That's interesting.
but they mastered specialized knowledge relevant to their passions.
Right. So it wasn't just
Yeah.
general knowledge. It was a thing they were actually interested in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it proves that like dedication and targeted learning
Mhm.
can be more valuable than a fancy degree.
Absolutely. You don't need to go into debt for a piece of
Yeah,
paper.
exactly. And he actually tells this really cool story about this grocery store salesman
Okay.
who gets laid off during the Depression.
Oh.
And, he has some bookkeeping skills. So he's like, all right,
All right.
I'm going to take a specialized course in accounting
Okay.
and start offering those services to like small businesses.
Interesting.
And he ends up turning it into this like booming business during the Depression.
Really? Wait, during the Depression?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know, it's pretty incredible. He even sets up these mobile bookkeeping offices and trucks.
What?
Yeah, equipped with like the latest technology.
Oh, wow.
It's like a true entrepreneur story.
Yeah, he's just adapting, right,
Yeah.
to the situation.
Exactly, and using that specialized knowledge
Yeah.
to really thrive.
It's inspiring, right?
It is inspiring. I do wonder though, like if people are intimidated by the idea of specialized knowledge, right? Like where do you even start?
Well, I think you have to break it down.
Okay.
Like, what is it that you're truly passionate about?
Mhm.
What are those skills that
Yeah.
you need to develop to excel in that?
Right, figure out your passion first.
Yeah, and then the path becomes much clearer.
Okay.
And nowadays, there are so many resources.
Right.
You know, there's online courses, there's books, there's mentors. There's no shortage of
Yeah.
ways to acquire that knowledge.
So it's really just about taking that first step and figuring out what you want to learn.
Exactly.
So it's really just about taking that first step and figuring out what you want to learn. Now, let's move on to maybe one of Hill's most famous principles, which is the power of the mastermind. What do you think about that?
Yeah, this is a fascinating one.
Yeah.
So, Hill believed that surrounding yourself with a group of like-minded and supportive individuals
Okay.
could amplify your power and your success. He called this the mastermind principle.
Okay.
Basically, the idea is that, like, the whole is greater than the sum of his parts.
Right. You're stronger together.
Exactly.
Fair.
And it's not just about networking, right?
Yeah.
It's about building a team that can support your growth.
And challenge you too, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. They can challenge you, they can give you different perspectives,
Yeah.
and they can also hold you accountable.
I'm curious, didn't Andrew Carnegie, the steel tycoon,
Yes.
didn't he attribute a lot of his success to his mastermind group?
He did, yeah. Carnegie had a legendary mastermind group.
I think I read about that somewhere.
Yeah, he assembled a team of like 50 experts,
Wow.
engineers, marketers, financiers, all these people who helped him build his empire.
That's wild.
Yeah, and he'll believe that like the combined intelligence and
Yeah.
energy of that group was what really propelled him to success.
Okay, so I'm thinking about my own goals, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you actually go about building a mastermind group?
Yeah, that's a great question.
It can't just be like gathering a bunch of smart people in a room.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
It takes more than that. I think, first of all, you got to identify people who have skills and perspectives
Okay.
that complement your own, right?
Yeah.
You want people who inspire you, whose opinions you value,
Okay.
and who are really committed to growth as well.
Right. They have to be in it for the right reasons.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it's important to like establish clear goals for the group.
Okay.
Got to have some direction.
Right. Like a shared vision.
Exactly. And then maintain regular communication
Yeah, that makes sense.
and to share ideas, to provide support, to track your progress.
It's almost like accountability partners, but like on a much larger scale.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's about having that support system
Yeah.
that pushes you to be your best.
Awesome. Okay, so this next principle, I'm a little hesitant to even get into it.
Oh, okay.
Why? It's the principle of transmuting sexual energy.
Oh, right. Yeah, this is a controversial one
Yeah.
even today,
Yeah, for sure.
but it's an important part of Think and Grow Rich, so I think it's worth discussing.
Okay, yeah, let's dive in. So, Hill believed that sexual energy is like this incredibly potent force.
Yeah.
And when it's channeled into creative pursuits, it can fuel ambition, it can boost creativity, it can enhance persistence.
Right. It's like any type of energy,
Right.
right?
Yep.
It can be destructive or it can be used to create something beautiful.
So how do you practically apply that, though?
Yeah, that's the tricky part, right? It's
Yeah.
like, okay, I have all this energy.
Right.
What do I do with it?
It gets a little murky.
It does. But I think the way I understand it is that he wasn't saying
Okay.
suppress this energy or deny it,
Right.
but it's about like consciously directing it
Okay.
towards something positive, towards your goals.
Yeah.
Think of it like a river, right?
Okay.
You don't want to dam up the river. You want to build channels
Okay.
to direct the flow of that energy.
So it's not about like letting it control you, but about harnessing it and directing it.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
It's about recognizing the power of those emotions
Yeah.
and making a conscious choice about how to express them
Yeah.
in a constructive way. And Hill really emphasized
Wow.
self-discipline and focused intention.
Okay, so it's like, I guess, like taking that raw energy and transforming it into something
Yeah.
that fuels your passions. That makes a lot more sense.
Okay, good.
Okay, on to something a little less controversial.
Right.
Conquering the 6 basic fears. So this is about, like, I guess, facing your fears head on.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So Hill identified 6 basic fears that he believed
Okay.
hold people back from achieving their full potential.
What are those fears?
So the 6 fears are poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and death.
Okay. Yeah. Those are pretty big ones.
Yeah, they're pretty fundamental fears, and Hill argued that
Okay.
these fears can lead to self-sabotage
Okay.
and a lack of trust in ourselves and in others.
Right, they can really hold you back.
Yeah, they can prevent you from taking risks
Yeah.
and putting yourself out there.
Okay, and out of those 6, which one did Hill consider the most detrimental?
He believed that the fear of poverty was the most destructive,
Okay.
and he said that it stems from our tendency to prey on each other economically.
Right, that scarcity mindset.
Yeah, and he felt like it really erodes our sense of self-worth and belonging.
Right.
He actually tells a really sad story in the book
Okay.
about an unemployed man who feels like he's lost his dignity because he has no money.
Wow.
It's a really poignant example of how fear can impact
Yeah.
not just our financial well-being,
Right.
but also like our overall sense of self.
Yeah, that's powerful. So how do we overcome these fears then? Especially like, some of them feel so deeply ingrained.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I think the first step is just recognizing and acknowledging those fears.
Okay.
A lot of times we try to push them down, we try to ignore them,
Right.
but we need to actually face them head on.
Confront them.
Exactly. And then once you've identified them, then you can start to challenge their validity.
Okay.
Ask yourself, like, is this fear based on facts
Right.
or is it based on my own limiting beliefs?
Yeah, that's a great point. It's like, sometimes we create these fears in our own minds
Exactly.
and they're not even based in reality.
Yeah, we catastrophize. We imagine the worst case scenario.
Totally. Okay, so on to principle number 6, which is the importance of decision.
Ooh.
This one seems pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, it sounds simple.
Like make a decision and move forward.
But Hill really emphasized the importance of making definite decisions.
Okay.
He believed that indecision is a form of paralysis.
Okay.
It prevents us from taking action.
Right, you're stuck.
Yeah. And he said that even a wrong decision is better than no decision at all,
Wow.
because at least it creates momentum, it opens up new possibilities.
I get how that applies to big life decisions.
Yeah.
But does it also apply to like everyday decisions?
Absolutely. I think every decision we make
Okay.
shapes our path in some way. He uses a really great historical example in the book.
Okay.
He talks about the signing of the Declaration of Independence.
Right.
And he points out that those 56 men,
Yeah.
they knew they were risking their lives by signing that document.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But they made a decision, a bold decision.
A life or death decision.
Exactly. And it was a decision born out of their conviction
Right.
and their burning desire for freedom.
Wow. That really puts things into perspective.
Yeah. And it reminds us that
Yeah.
even though making a decision can feel scary,
Mm-hmm.
it's often necessary to move forward.
Right. It's that first step.
Exactly. So if someone's struggling with indecision,
Yeah.
what advice would you give them based on Hill's principles?
That's a good question. What would you say?
Well, I think, first of all, gather all the information you need
Okay.
to make an informed choice,
Do
right?
you research?
Exactly. And then trust your intuition
Okay.
and make a decision.
Hmm.
Don't get caught up in overthinking it.
Right. Don't second guess yourself.
Exactly. And remember, action breeds clarity.
Ooh, I like that.
Even a wrong decision
Yeah.
can teach you valuable lessons.
Right. It's all part of the process.
Exactly. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've talked about burning desire, turning defeat into opportunity,
Specialized knowledge,
the mastermind, transmuting sexual energy,
conquering our fears.
the importance of making decisions.
Before we move on to the final principle,
Yes.
could you maybe give us a little recap?
Yeah, absolutely. So all of these principles that we've talked about, they're all interconnected, right?
Right.
They build upon each other.
Yeah.
They start with identifying your burning desire,
Yeah.
that thing that you want so badly that it fuels your actions.
Right.
Then it's about learning from your defeats,
Okay.
acquiring that specialized knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
building that supportive mastermind group,
Yeah.
harnessing your energy, conquering your fears,
Right.
making those bold decisions to move forward.
It's like a whole, recipe for success.
It is. It's a framework
Yeah.
for achieving anything you set your mind to.
Awesome. All right, so on to the final principle.
Okay, the grand finale.
This is a big one, the subconscious mind.
Ooh.
I'm really intrigued to see how this ties into everything we've talked about so far.
Yeah, this is where it all comes together. So he'll believe that the subconscious mind
Yeah.
is this bridge between our conscious thoughts and desires
Okay.
and their manifestation in the real world.
So it's like the engine behind everything.
Yeah, it's incredibly powerful.
Hmm.
It shapes our beliefs, our actions, our reality.
I've heard the subconscious mind compared to a garden
Okay.
where the thoughts you plant eventually grow and bear fruit is a good analogy.
I think that's a good starting point.
Uh.
Imagine your subconscious mind is like this fertile ground, right?
Okay.
And the thoughts and beliefs that you repeatedly feed it,
Yeah.
those are like the seeds.
Okay.
So if you're constantly thinking about negativity,
Yeah.
lack, failure, those are the seeds you're planting.
Right. And you're going to get more of that.
Exactly.
So if we want to cultivate success,
Yeah.
we need to plant the right seeds.
Right. Thoughts of abundance,
Oh.
confidence, achievement.
So if we want to cultivate success, we need to plant the right seeds.
Right. Thoughts of abundance, confidence, achievement.
Okay. And the good news is you have the power to choose what you plant.
You do, yeah.
So through conscious effort and repetition,
Mm-hmm.
you can actually reprogram your subconscious mind
Yeah.
to support your goal.
That's the key, right? It's not just like a one-time thing.
Right.
It's about consistently
Mhm.
feeding your mind
Yeah.
with those positive thoughts.
I know Hill was a big advocate for using affirmations.
Yes, he loved affirmations.
Can you remind me what those are again?
Yeah, so affirmations are basically those clear, concise statements
Okay.
that affirm what you want to achieve.
So instead of saying I'm afraid of failing,
Right.
you'd say I am confident and capable of achieving my goals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the more you repeat those affirmations,
Sure.
the deeper they're imprinted in your subconscious mind.
So it's like you're literally changing your thought patterns.
Yeah, you're retraining your brain
Interesting.
to focus on what you want.
Okay, and Hill believed that this would eventually create a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes, that's the goal, right?
Okay.
To align your conscious and subconscious minds.
Gotcha. So I remember reading about Hill's personal technique for working with the subconscious mind.
Oh, yeah.
Something about an invisible cabinet.
Yeah, this is a weird one.
What was that all about?
But Hill's invisible cabinet was his way of tapping into the wisdom
Okay.
of those he admired.
Okay.
He would mentally assemble this Groose of his heroes from history.
So who would be in this cabinet?
He had people like Abraham Lincoln in there,
Oh, wow.
Ralph Waldo Emerson, Thomas Edison, all
Yeah.
these really impressive figures.
So he would have imaginary meetings with these people.
He'd meet with them in his mind,
Wow.
seek their advice and perspectives.
That sounds a little out there.
It does, but it really highlights his understanding of the
Okay.
power of mentorship
Right.
and surrounding yourself, even mentally,
Okay.
with those who embody the qualities you aspire to.
I can see how that would work, right? By visualizing those interactions and
Mhm.
hearing their advice, he was essentially
Yeah.
feeding his subconscious mind
Just
with
saying.
these positive thoughts and beliefs.
Yeah, it's like creating this internal support system of
Right.
the greatest minds in history.
That's pretty cool. So it all kind of ties together, right?
It does, yeah.
You start with that burning desire.
Mm-hmm.
You learn from your defeats.
Yes.
Acquire specialized knowledge.
Yeah,
Build your mastermind.
absolutely.
Harness your energy.
Mm.
Conquer your fears.
Yep.
make bold decisions,
Yes.
and then you use these tools like affirmations and visualization
Right.
to align your subconscious mind
To bring it all
for
together.
your goals.
Exactly. It's like creating this feedback loop of success.
Yeah, where each principle kind of reinforces the others.
Yeah, exactly. And Hill believed that by consistently applying these principles,
Okay.
anyone, regardless of their background,
Mm-hmm.
could achieve extraordinary things.
So, to wrap up our deep dive into Think and Grow Rich,
Yes.
here's a final, thought-provoking question for our listener.
Okay, I like it.
If Hill could create his own invisible cabinet of advisors, who would you choose for yours?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Who are those individuals, past or present,
Yeah.
who really inspire you?
Yeah.
What qualities do they possess that you admire?
Yeah, it's a great exercise.
It's like an exercise in visualization and intention setting.
Absolutely.
And I think, by surrounding ourselves, even just mentally,
Yeah.
with those who embody our aspirations,
Hmm.
we can kind of tap into their energy
Yeah.
and pave our own path towards success.
And remember, Think and Grow Rich isn't just about accumulating wealth.
Right.
It's about cultivating the mindset to achieve anything.
Anything you set your mind to.
Exactly.
Well, on that note, that concludes our deep dive
Flip
into
over.
Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
I love it.
Until next time, keep those desires burning, keep those minds expanding. And remember, you have the power within you to achieve anything you set your mind to